successful and innovative new business era. The winds of change are blowing, but in aerodynamic boardrooms, decision makers remain separated. We can't interrupt anyone or anything if we can't disturb ourselves first. Opening your mind to a disruptive view. 22 ways to compete for the future. This essay was influenced by a recent discussion on disruptive perspective with Steve Sirach, VP of Bing Advertising Marketing. Throughout our discussion, we dissected and discussed the state of affairs and what the most disruptive businesses of all sizes are doing differently to compete for the future. I unpacked the whole topic and transformed it into a collection of things for practice. The goal is to help managers get the why and how and find purpose, new direction, and relevance to reinforce strategies for digital transformation and innovation. Disruption State Intro. A brief history of why I'm researching digital transformation, organizational creativity, Culture 2.0, and interaction design, and why the company needs to embrace digital sociology and social science. Get a real-world outlook. The current state of disruption and innovation and what it means for today's executives. Avoid iterating and working as normal within the market confines. The need and intent for creativity in the business model. See innovation as an investment and, as such, conduct and measure. Innovation is not a cost center. It is an investment in the future profit. Approach by Unilever to handle shareholders/stakeholders. Assess where you are in the world of digital evolution, what it means to work in an age of modern Darwinism. Meet Generation C, connected consumers and employees. Take a step back and get into Generation C's mind. How to connect with the customer and employee of today and how they are different today. Realize that you are not customer-centered today and take the first step to become so. Why businesses are shareholder/stakeholder-centered versus customer-centered and why they need to improve to be human-centered. See technology beyond its potential and cool factor and discuss behavioral impacts. The need to understand the impact of technology on culture, behavior, attitudes, aspirations, and values. Refocus consumer segmentation from demographics to psychographics on why we need to stop talking about millennials and other demographics and start learning about common interests, attitudes, preferences, beliefs, etc. Rethinking market approach to communicate with Generation C effectively. What brands and advertisers need to do to meet Generation C. Reimagine value proposals for a new customer generation. Why companies need to move value proposals from goods to experiences. Think outside of the business to see shifts in value for customers. What companies can benefit from the music industry? Start from the inside to modernize how the job is going to be done and why. Why updating tactics, policies, and terms of service should modernize CX. Avoid restricting the competitive analysis to conventional competitors. A look at the digital transformation and innovation strategy of Sephora. Company transformation, identify relevant skills, responsibilities, and strategic opportunities. Rethinking and retooling the way companies to operate, creativity in business models. Empower the workforce. Create a culture of activity that encourages creativity and innovation. Control-Alt-Delete, aka the reboot, how workers are handled, educated, and grown. HR's role in digital transformation and innovation. Another, benchmark your progress against the 6 stages of digital transformation. Altimeter and profit prioritize corporate culture to promote creativity and innovation. 10 reasons your culture is struggling and new insights on how to address it. Gaping void. Discover why your corporate culture is hindering change, because it is. Why business is facing the challenge of digital culture. Break down hierarchical structures to creativity and invention. The value of democratizing ideas and teamwork, not just top-down and highest-paid people in the room. All stories of progress and growth start with personal change. Learn and unlearn. Why now is the time to learn and unlearn. 3.4. Users' pride instead of users' remorse. There is nothing more rewarding than to close a deal on a commodity, ideally costlier. Whether it's a sleek convertible or the new marketing tools, it's a relief to know you've done well when you can pat yourself on the back. There's nothing less satisfying when a customer suddenly has second thoughts and decides that the purchase was a mistake than having to face the dreaded aftermath of the deal. Suddenly, the relationship you have been cultivating for months is beginning to crumble. You were so confident that the consumer was persuaded that their personal or professional life would benefit from that particular purchase, and somehow this feeling has taken a turn of 180 degrees. The client has to live with the guilt of the consumer. What is the remorse of the buyer? The remorse of the buyer is the feeling of regret in response to making a purchase, usually expensive. Often, this disappointment can be mixed with anxiety or tension, resulting in a buyer wanting to return the purchase immediately. Obviously, the guilt of the client should be your biggest nightmare as a customer service employee who is desperately trying to keep their business and work afloat. It's not just about the customer's monetary value, however. You can care about your customers and want them out of their new purchases to get a great experience. And you can care about your business and believe in its products and services, so you also want the world to believe in them. It makes sense for you to be given a lot of bang for your buck with these purchases. The clearer the content, more exact it will be, and after all, the guilt of the buyer usually begins to kick in a few days after the purchase. And by taking the steps below, limit the chances for buyer's remorse to crawl on your customers. 6 steps to stop the remorse of the buyer. Give value far ahead of time. Buyers want to know you're most interested than just using them as a means to an end. Make sure you have built a solid foundation that goes beyond that particular purchase for your partnership. This is how you can maintain a loyal customer with a higher lifetime value for the company. When the customer believes that you have their best interest at heart, a customer relationship will flourish. This means building a relationship based on the benefits agreed upon that were included in the proposals and/or contract. Give them and keep your word. That will make post-purchase regrets less likely. Place the goals. Explain to the consumer, orally and in writing, what they can expect to receive from you and your company directly after their order. Provide a summary outlining how the account will be handled, how it will be invoiced, and whatever the next steps are in the process. Then stick with it. The important thing is not to give false expectations to the customer. Don't tell them that if it won't, the company will fix all its problems. Alternatively, concentrate on how the product will improve their lives and will benefit them. If the customer leaves the transaction feeling confident about how they will profit from the product, they will be much less likely to be disappointed. Send a note of thanks. You have probably expressed your thanks on the phone or in person already. That's not enough, however. That makes a customer's lasting impression is a letter of thanks in writing. So give them one as soon as you can. Express in the note how much you appreciate their decision with this purchase to trust you and your company. This note should be written by hand, not typed, and sent by email. Mailing a meaningful thank you note a difference because this is no longer done by many people, especially businesses. It will be a welcome surprise and will reassure the customer in their purchase. Provide in 24 hours of contact information. Most customers will expect the company to stop taking care of them as soon as they are handed over their credit card data and receive the order submission email. You got what you wanted after all, right? False. False. Make sure you're still there for your clients by giving them the best onboarding strategies you've got up your sleeve. Provide them with a record of all the relevant people working in a welcome email on their account. Provide direct phone numbers, email addresses, mobile numbers, blogs of any kind, and updates on social media. Guarantee someone will always come back to them in a certain amount of time if they have any problems, and someone will work closely with them to help them master the product. They will never feel like they're alone, and once they've learned how to use their product, they'll be less likely to decide to give it up. Introducing groups of consumers. If your company has user groups, introduce key individuals in the groups to the customer. We would love to connect, like themselves, with other users who use the same or similar goods. User groups are creating an unbeatable camaraderie. Customers can learn from each other tips and tricks, and hearing from some other customers who have had a great experience with your business and products will encourage your new customer to make the right move to buy. If your company has user groups, introduce key individuals in the group to the customer. We would love to connect, like themselves, with other users who use the same or similar goods. User groups are creating an unbeatable camaraderie. Customers can learn from each other tips and tricks, and hearing from other customers who have had a great experience with your business and products will encourage your new customer to make the right move to buy. Share love with each other. You're probably very attached to this customer at this stage. Through their fears, you've coaxed them, heard all of the reasons behind their purchase, and cheered them on as they got to know their new product. What is most efficient and effective for your company, however, is for you to pass this information on to your team. Build a master customer profile along with all relevant information, phone numbers, addresses, contracts, billing information, etc., and ensure that everyone working on the account is easily accessible in your business. Answer any questions and make sure that your colleagues know what you know about the goals and expectations of the new customer. This will ensure that the customer's interaction with each person they communicate with is well-rounded and consistent. The remorse of the buyer is very close to the attrition of the customer. So even if the client doesn't feel remorse right away, having these tips in mind is a good idea. You never know when the regrets are going to rise, so be sure to pay careful attention to the signs and fix them as soon as possible. Chapter 4. Internet Hacking in Copywriting. 4.1. SEO Hacking in Copywriting. SEO copywriting content which targets a specific keyword or keyword group in a way that Google likes, understands, and is happy to rank. Knowing the technical aspects of SEO copywriting is essential, the same as knowing and applying the best SEO practices on the website. Nevertheless, in addition to simple on-page SEO, SEO copywriting also tries to create a good user experience that affects SEO tangentially. Ranking factors can be categorized into direct and indirect ranking factors, in the context of SEO copywriting. Specific ranking factors are those items that are explicitly stated by Google when determining how to rate an article. On the other hand, it would probably rank higher in the SERPs. These include title tags, URL slugs, LSI keywords, and WF by IDF outbound links headings and subheadings. LSI keywords and WDF by IDF outbound links indirect ranking factors are items that create a good user experience which affects positively but does not trigger other ranking boosts based on the ranking factors. These include meta descriptions, formatting content quality, headline power engagement in content length, media and reading, meta tag/description. Do you have the same title tag as the title of your article? Might they be different, you know? Write a succinct title for your title tag and a more entertaining and interesting one for a better CTR, click-through rate, title for your post. One last thing. Ensure that your title tag is entirely relevant to your content. No one wants to be led astray. Do you have a meta description on all of your pages? It comes out as a summary of your snippet in the search engine results page and affects CTR, click-through rate. Make sure that your meta description only promises what your website has to offer. Don't put keywords in your aim aggressively, especially if it sounds funny. SEO copywriting content which targets a specific keyword or keyword group in a way that Google likes, understands, and is happy to rank. Content strategy. Is your content set out to be user-centric in a way? To people, not search engines, not you, not your dog. Content should be developed. Make sure your content is sensitive to your target audiences and what they need. Does this address immediate problems for your target user? Some of your users are immediately troubled people. If your content has the answers to your problems, they will never forget you. Make sure they can find those responses fast. It is answering possible questions in the minds of your user. On the other hand, some of your users are just looking for more information. Clothing your content with your expertise can boost that person's loyalty to your brand by responding to possible questions from your user. Is your content something your target users should be searching for? Are you 100% sure that the content of your website is a goldmine for your target users? Is there any way you'll be ashamed of the content of your own website? Article layout. Is your article set out in such a way that the target users like it? Would you make the reader simpler for them? If after a short trip to the toilet, they find it difficult to find where they are again in your post, you have a problem. Can you stuff too many phrases into one paragraph? This is easier, like where they are when reading your stuff. Do you put pictures in the best places? If you put them in the middle, images look fine, but they can be great in complementing certain parts of your article, giving your audience a beautiful graphic experience of what you're saying. Is your font large enough to be read but small enough to adhere to your design? You don't want your letters to be too big to look funny. Make it look classy but not uncomfortably small. Do you use headings? Using headings to direct the users on what the next few paragraphs have to suggest. Here, you can put specific keywords that speak to your readers and give a smackdown impression that they are still flowing smoothly as they go through the points of your article. 4.2. Asking questions in copywriting. Over the years, we have been talking about their content projects to hundreds of potential customers. We find a few questions that we can ask during those discussions that never fail to impress. and we are going to share with we today the most important ones. We are standing out from the crowd as we ask these questions. We show that we know what good B2B content needs to be created, and we proving we're adaptable, so doing what the customer needs. Have you got any people? A persona is an archetype describing an audience section of the client. A well-developed user may include demographics, age, schooling, place, and job history, psychographics, beliefs, attitudes, desires, and challenges, technographics, how and where the content is likely to be viewed, laptop, mobile, phone, work, transportation, home. For example, one might be a middle-aged executive trying to redo a health insurance company's website, willing to sign up to more Midwest customers. That one sentence tells you a lot. Through B2B marketing, everybody knows they ought to grow people. But how few companies actually have them is surprising. If they do, great. Knowing their people will give you a reader you want to write for. If not, say before you start writing, you'll need to learn more about their audience. After hiring you, interview your clients about their audience for 20 or 30 minutes and come up with some short phrases that they can use as a starting point for their people. What is your style guide? A style guide describes how a company handles specific grammar, spelling, and punctuation problems, such as whether to use a serial comma in a list, red, white, and blue, or red, white, and blue. How to spell such words, American style, such as yellow, or British style, such as orange. Now, to express numbers, dates, hours, weights, and measurements, 9 p.m. or 2100 hours. It doesn't matter what you were taught by your grade 3 teacher. The customer is always right. And to suit any guide, a truly professional writer should vary their style. Why is this important? As one thing, the more you suit the theme of a client's house, the less time they're spending cleaning up your text and the easier you're working with. 4. A good guide to style is a third party settling stupid arguments. If a reader insists on putting 2 spaces after a time because they learned that in college, this suggestion could be dismissed because that's not our style. Case closed. Could we describe the project, please? We might imagine that a company called in a copywriter would have an idea of what they want. We'd be mistaken a lot of the time. They hope we can help them find out if a white paper, an updated landing page, or 8 blog posts a month would be their best new piece of material. If even with encouragement, they can't figure it out, try to find a small initial project that they're able to get things moving. When are we going to be quick to start? When this fall is the answer. We know it's just a meeting and greet. This client is not able to allocate anything, so wrap it up strategically as soon as we can and ask if we can stay in touch. When do we need to finish this project? Between question 2 and this one, we're learning the time frame. How long we're going to have to do the job from beginning to end. Setting my bid is one of the most important metrics I use. If the timing is short, we should always remember that rush work should pay a premium rate. Is there a hard deadline for the distribution of materials? For example, if what we write is to be passed out at an upcoming trade show, no wiggle room will be available. Have we already associated with freelance copywriters? The reason to pray is yes. It will take time to train a client who is new to the entire process. What's our project budget? Try to get a figure, or at least a range, named by the client. Getting them to think first about the offer will help us avoid our over-under bid bidding dramatically. If they don't bite, mention a wide range and claim, "Once I know more about our needs, I will be able to deliver a more reliable project." Quote, "Who's going to be my editor? This is the person we're going to spend most of our time communicating with, so try to meet them and get a sense of compatibility. How many people will be involved in this project in our company?" Many onboard executives or divisions may mean an ugly scenario where several supervisors or department teams are evaluating our work. Typically, this is the enemy of good copy and can make it difficult to reach consensus on a final version. Who has the final approval if several managers or teams are involved? Attempting to identify the position of the buck. Otherwise, it may stop with no one, or we may find ourselves embroiled in a power struggle between several executives who think each of them owns the project. Am I going to interview people outside the company? If so, find out if connections are going to be given by the company, or if we are supposed to dig them up ourselves. Who is the subject/subjects going to come up with? A corporate blogging project in which we need to produce a dozen ideas a month takes much longer and should cost more than one in which a monthly topic list will be offered to we. Can I see our existing materials for marketing? One of the easiest ways to cut a copywriting project's time is to read existing materials and see what our marketing team likes. Oh, we hate our current materials for marketing? It is even more important to have a look at it if existing products are loathed. Ask managers what doesn't fit for them, so we can avoid putting it in our copy, more of the same. Identifying a lousy current copy always opens the door for further project work to be arranged. Can our current materials use what I'm going to write? If our brochure gets stuck inside one of their current flyers, we'll want to learn that from the beginning. Who is the target audience specifically for what I am going to write? If we don't know the business, be careful. That's right. How much of this group can you tell me? Extract every information you can before our customers drink a brand of coffee. The more we build our customer image, the easier it will be in our copy to speak to them. What are the most important issues this group is facing? Speak to sales staff about what they hear from clients, or plan to spend a day out on sales calls if the company is unclear on this point. Have we done any customer market research? If we're sitting around a study, get it in our hands. How does our product or service in particular help to solve their problems? The answer to this question can provide an immediate overview of the points we need to cover. Can you send me 5 descriptive words that describe the values that you want to communicate about our company? The little exercise is crucial in order to get prospects to crystallize their corporate values in order to express them clearly in the document. Who are our biggest competitors and how different is our business? This is our chance to learn the essential elements to highlight our copy, the specific selling proposition of the client. Dear brothers and sisters, how is this content going to be distributed? Digital content has a style that is clearly different from print, so find out if links need to be coded. Are we looking at this idea for a graphic designer? If so, stand out by promising to tap the Rolodex, and a project management fee may also be paid. Do we have any need for this project in multimedia? We may need to integrate QR codes, videos, slideshows, or other interactivity into what we write in today's digital age. Understand all the pieces that are moving up front. We should think about raising our fees if we have experience with these tools. May I give you some examples of my writing? Bring a portfolio or tap on our website as a way to stand out from other writers in the mind of the client. Dear brothers and sisters, what's our favorite contact method? If IM or Skype is the solution, be careful. IM-friendly customers may want to contact us around the clock immediately. What are our thoughts about my availability? This is another way to figure out whether there are planned 24/7 contact. If we're looking forward to our days off, make that clear and set our limits now. Dear brothers and sisters, search specifically for my period to lock down. Many customers want us to abandon everything and only work for them until the end of their project. Both decks may or may not be transparent. This query can also raise whether the client, if they like this first project, will place us on an ongoing retainer. Dear brothers and sisters, if my piece is published online, can I get a credit that is a live link to the site of my author? This is particularly relevant if we are blogging for a business or writing articles. These bylines can be a great source of new referrals, so it should be questioned. Needs a non-disclosure agreement for this project? Get clarification about the top secret, so we don't screw up something sensitive and blab something confidential. Can I use this piece as a reference in my portfolio? If we are ghostwriting for team members and the client wants to keep the real private, a sample will cost us, so the job will pay a premium. Are there any limits on who else in our business I can work for? In particular, look out for any non-competitive provisions that extend beyond the project's name. What is our method of payment? PayPal is becoming increasingly common, but the company charges a fee of almost 3%. In my opinion, if a business can pay via PayPal, they can pay at no cost to me via direct bank transfer. How early can we get going on this project with a 50% upfront payment? We might be able to accept 30% if we really love the idea, but without an upfront payment, we don't start work. Let's look at the terms of payment for the remainder of my bill. Don't leave this one ambiguous, or the customer will pay 6 months after we've completed the job, or never. A lot of cash flow headaches are born right here. Request for next 30 days from, or better still, next 15 days from when work is turned in. The contract usually includes 2 rewriting sessions. Is that working for us? I know that many copywriters are adhering to this law and that any additional corrections are extra. Personally, I'm taking the approach of, I'm working until we're ready, but particularly if we smell a gang edit situation, it's worth considering how to structure our contract. Let's decide on this project's time limit. What exactly is our time limit? Sometimes a first draft is turned in, and we never hear from the customer again. Our final payment will never occur in this case unless we have developed a cutoff date into our contract, at which stage all work is deemed done and our check is due. When are you going to need my offer? If the proposal is complicated, or if at the end of the first meeting any questions remain unanswered, postpone the bid until later. Go home and think through it. Wait to trickle in the rest of the truth. Then give your quote. Will we meet several writers? This organization might be delighted to meet us and ready to recruit, or they might submit a list of the first 50 authors they saw on a search for Google. We may want to invest less effort in trying to land the company if it's a cattle call. Could you let me know if you are considering turning me down on the basis of demand, so I can consider rebidding? If we're worried about bidding too high and we're really looking for this company, this question could keep us going. Benefits of asking questions in copywriting. Nonetheless, it can be of tremendous benefit to you and your business to be able to ask great questions. Some of the normal and unexpected benefits include the following. Inspiring others. Most of us had managers who asked questions. At the time, it might have felt like a grill, and if the questions were posed smartly, our best thinking would be needed. The person helped us to think more clearly and more profoundly than we had before, or maybe even think we could. If you ask questions that bring out people's best ideas, you feel smarter and more motivated and able to take action. Because of your questions, they are inspired. Educating people. Typically, we believe we alert others if we tell them something. But in many situations, the lasting impact is greater if we ask questions to teach them than if we tell them what we want or think we know. Great questions raise facets of a topic that may not have previously been considered. Rather than pushing others to more specific form their own thoughts to convince themselves great questions. Making things more efficient. It may seem that it takes time to ask questions, and it may be easier to ask what to do with someone. But if a leader asks intelligent questions, listens, and asks more questions, the employee must verbalize and possess the topic, the response, and the timelines. It's not the boss's dream. It's the employee's, and she's pushed much more to prove she's right and do it. Showing how intelligent you are. It is personally satisfying, self-assuring, and natural to want to express what you know and think. You will find that this statement is true as you ask more informative and important questions. The less we care about sounding wise, the wiser we seem to be just by listening and asking smart questions. Some thought that I was stronger or learned more than I was just because I was asking intelligent questions. And because they could demonstrate how intelligent they are being, they felt I was brilliant in bringing out the best of them. How many times have you witnessed this? Issues and difficult situations are easier to deal with. If you ask important questions in the right way, at the right time, the edginess and testiness will be diffused. Powerful questions almost always start with the word what and rarely with why or how. What is meant to encourage a person's best thought without the need for self-defense? Questions that begin with why usually cause people to think, I have to justify my thoughts or actions, rather than I'm asked to verbalize my thoughts. In difficult situations, it is best to ask direct questions that get to the root of what needs to happen. Some examples are, what else could you have done to produce the result we wanted? What was a safer way for you to deal with this? What do you need to do to improve this situation? What will you do differently if there's a similar situation? What do you think are or will be the implications of what you did or what happened? The emphasis is on the responsible person, and what he or she will or must do is more than what he or she has done. Showing respect for others. You had the impression of being consciously or subconsciously respected when you thought about the occasions when someone asked questions to learn what you felt. If the leader wants to know what someone else thinks, the plea for their best thinking will have gravitas. Most of all, whether they admit it readily or not, they feel respected when someone else asks what they know or what they think, especially someone they admire. It is significant to note here that when you ask gotcha questions or questions to show how wrong the other person is, your contempt for that person will be clear. To gain more respect from others, we get what we're selling. With our title or what we have done, we may be respected, but the most inspired respect with followers is based on who we are as a person and a leader. When we show sincere respect for a person by asking what he knows or feels, even in difficult situations, he will have more respect for us. 4.3. Engaging a headline in copywriting. They say the most difficult part of publishing is to write the headline. Some people have even come up with specific strategies to make things simpler, from fill-in-the-blank models to looking for something interesting and imaginative to whip up until the last minute. If you're talking to enough copywriters, eventually you'll learn headlines are critical to the success of your copy. The vast majority of people will not continue reading the article. Only those drawn in by an eye-catching headline will continue to read your copy's first paragraph. So, many matters to your headline. A great headline persuades more people to read your copy, while a poor person sends potential customers looking to spend their money elsewhere. This brings us to David Ogilvy's famous quote. It follows that unless your headline sells your product, you have lost 90% of your money. Ogilvy felt that headlines were so important that he saw them as worth 90% of the advertising money spent. Why engaging a headline in copywriting is important. Headlines are so critical that one term can have a dramatic impact on a campaign. We saw email subject lines where a single word shifts improved by 46% click-through. Open rates were almost equal, and the innovative email was almost the same for both versions, but click-through in the second improved by 46%. If the ad was sent to 2 million addresses, the winning version would result in more than 17,000 clicks, and from a single word being modified. That's a measurable difference that impacts the bottom line dramatically. So, why do headlines matter so much? It's because customers are reading the first lines of your file. We create an initial impression of either pulling in readers or pushing them away. Even if the rest of the copy is fantastic and would convince 3 out of 10 people to buy, if the headline puts them to sleep, only a fraction of customers who buy something will read the copy and make a purchase. The title alone can make or break the subject line of an ad, article, or email. For the rest of the copy, it sets the tone. If the headline draws people in, you're going to sell more. If not, you're going to be left to wonder what happened. Specific types of engaging headline in copywriting. The first thing about which you need to know headline writing is the number 1 rule. The headline's primary purpose is to read the first paragraph. If you're sticking around copywriting circles long enough, you're sure to read this rule at one stage or another, because the perception of most copywriters gets potential customers to keep reading as the headline number rule. Convincing your customers to continue reading means that you will not waste time or resources that you spend in your text. First of all, focus on writing a headline that will draw in your customers and push them to read the very first paragraph. Your headline should be unique. How to make the headline special is the first thing you want to remember. If yours is like everybody else, your business won't stand out. Your clients will have no reason to think you're different from your rivals, which means they have no reason to buy from you other than someone else. Consumers of today are more educated than past customers. After advertising that says the same thing, they are used to being bombarded with commercials. We can all remember watching lines like ad, buy now with 3 small $24.95 payments. That's okay. It's just $24.95 a month. When you buy today, you'll get a free carrot peeler worth $19.95. Businesses use commercials like this because they're focused on a subset of consumers at least. But many people are put off by the advertising language they've heard over and over. When they hear 3 $24.95 equal payments, they turn in hoping for something that seems more convincing. When you sound the same as anybody else, you will automatically put customers to sleep. But if you do something different, you will stand out. Your message will be exciting, and you may please your customers enough to get them to buy from you. Technically, this is a tagline, but in reality, taglines are kinds of headlines. What's so amazing about this headline? It's special to begin with. It's not a dull tagline saying the same thing as the thousands of other taglines repeating each other. It's brazen, too. It is a personality show. This stands out. This gets the attention of the clients. Furthermore, you must be prepared to take risks to write headlines like this, but the bonus of doing something special that stands out means you're not going to be in the same pool as your rivals. You are more likely to connect with clients searching for companies that don't sound like boring corporate robots. This works because it has a personality first and foremost. People like to do business with people they like, and business is the same. We are more likely to want to do business with you if people like your business. We would rather give someone we like our money than somebody we don't. Butchers and other local service providers used to distinguish themselves by being more personable, and by giving your company a personality that appeals to consumers, you can differentiate yourself. This was done by Gary Vaynerchuk with Wine Library TV, and Copyblogger was done by Brian Clark. MailChimp is another great example of a company that has a distinctive, open personality that stands out from the competition to win over customers. Your headline should be ultra-specific. Your headline should be ultra-specific as well as exclusive. It should provide sufficient information to let customers know if they are interested in the deal that you are offering. If your headline is not very accurate, consumers will not know if they're interested in what you're selling or not. Here's an example. I visited a blog with this headline a while ago. You'll be missed. I didn't know about it. The owner lost a member of the family. Did she miss her dog? Has anything else happened terrible? I felt bad for her, but I didn't know what was going on. I learned it was an article about Steve Jobs when I clicked through. In the past couple of days, he had just passed away, and the author was writing about how she would miss Mr. Jobs. It ended up being a well-written post, but as a reader, before I clicked through to read, I had no idea what it was all about. In cases like this, providing sufficient specific information to compel readers to continue reading is much better than writing something clever that does not give readers adequate information to decide if they are interested or not. The example is here. Rejoiner conveys a specific benefit with this homepage headline and points out who they are selling to. We get e-retailers' attention with abandoned carts, while letting them know they're going to get 15% more sales. It's straightforward, it's unique, and it's successful. E-retailers may not know what the deal is aimed at them if it wasn't that precise. They may read the headline. They didn't know they were the perfect company and then move on. Headlines should be sufficiently descriptive to attract the attention of the target clients of the company. Your headline should convey a sense of urgency. When necessary, a sense of urgency should be expressed in your headline. It should include something that encourages readers to keep reading so that they don't forget this. This is not a concept that can be used at all times, but it works really well when it can. On the Kissmetrics site, this article ended up doing well. It's titled, "Will You Lose Sales by Offering Too Many Options to Customers?" Why was that so successful? One explanation for this is that it transmits a sense of urgency. We automatically think as business owners, read it. Maybe I'm losing sales. To find out, I need to read this article, and then click to read. The desperate need to lose revenue causes them to read the post. It's good to write headlines whenever possible that convey a sense of urgency to encourage people to continue reading. Your headline should be useful. This may be everyone's most valuable tip. If your headline is not helpful and does not provide a value, then it may not provide a reason for people to continue the headline history. People want to know what value they're going to get from reading what you wrote. It also happens that this is one of the laws that companies often break. We end up writing something clever because that's the point of writing a headline for some purpose that most people think. We fail to communicate a profit by doing so and fail to provide readers with a reason to continue reading. They eventually end up with dishonest sales because nobody pays attention to their copy. You don't want to make that mistake. Common examples of headlines in copywriting. Ginza Metrics. One of the things that Ginza Metrics does well with this headline is to start with two words in all caps, "Get Found." It makes the headline stand out as each other online headline is between 8 and 15 words in length. It gets points for being original while using two simple words to communicate a profit effectively. It also gets points in the next line to list two specific benefits, bringing more traffic and increasing revenue. Customers are immediately aware of how they will benefit from using the product. The headline, or subheadline if you want to get technical, is even more precise in that it relates to SEO's traffic and revenue. Not only do they make a general argument, but they also illustrate how the gain will be produced directly. We also get everybody interested in improving their SEO's focus. Finally, they have a broad goal where they discuss improving findability of your brand. That's okay if they target all brands, but it could be better if their targets were unique as business customers or startups. If not, brands are all right. Indochina. This is an example of a not-so-good headline. Sorry, Indochina. It's very ambiguous and it doesn't explain a lot of clients. The two lines say, "Ultimate It Collection," and "Nothing stands in the way of style." But none of them express interest to consumers. They might be considered smart, but they just come off as frustrating and pointless on the borderline. Nonetheless, you can find a more detailed sub-headline until you click through. The headline helps explain what the Ultimate Tech Collection is and what it means to stand in the way of style for nothing. But without the clarification, consumers are left to scratch their heads, trying to figure out what's on the next page. We may be wrong, and Indochina gets more click-throughs with the vague headline and subheadline on the home page, but we're pretty sure more click-throughs and sales would be created by the more precise subheadline. Trunk Club. This may well be the best online headline right now. This goes much further than explaining the operation. A novice would write a concise title, such as, "Get a trunk of designer clothes directly delivered to your doorstep." A better copywriter would write something like, "Get a trunk of clothes that will make you look good." This gets down to the core of what men want from a service like this. Rather than just explaining the service or conveying a basic profit, it responds to their ego on an emotional level. It's not just explaining what the service does or how it works. It's expressing what every man wants to be and the best-dressed man in the room. Your goal should be to write such a headline that goes beyond simple description or a benefit on the surface level. You want to find out what consumers want to really get out of using your product and express it in your headline. In many respects, the headline of the Trunk Club is the ideal that you should aspire for. 4.4. Use of active verbs in copywriting. Words sell. They're our bread and butter as a copywriter. Words that pique the interest of people make them use their imagination and make the ordinary something worth paying for. Not only can copywriters consider factual and grammatical precision, rhythm, and clarity of ideas, through all of these items are significant. Copywriters must look into the emotional and psychological effect of the words we use and when to write a copy that produces a response. Tips for active verbs in copywriting. Nevertheless, I value them more than love and how they are to be used and the power they possess. And that's what we'll be thinking about this week. Vocabulary. The resources you're using to design compelling, effective writing. Your tools to win the life of the artist. Today, we're going to continue with the most powerful words in your writing. Verbs bring life to your writing. Look at the following phrases. Natural pain relievers move faster than synthetic ones through your bloodstream. Natural pain relievers rise faster than synthetic ones through your bloodstream. There's not much doubt. Surge packs more punch than jump. The verbs that matter is used by you. But no matter how strong a verb you pick, if you cloak it in the passive voice, it will lose 90% of its strength. Don't sit passively there. Passive voice, a sentence like, "Marcia wrote the letter," ruins the writing. Passive voice makes it hard to see the picture. How you talk to your mates is an active voice. You put the person in front of the verb acting. You say, "Marcia wrote the letter." The active voice makes the word more descriptive and vibrant. Imagine Marcia sitting on the screen writing the letter. It's simple. You should actually imagine it. Active voice is more conversational, natural, and persuasive. The same applies to the writing of copies. Dr. Smith found a brand new idea of nutrition while visiting China. It sounds like Dr. Smith stood out passively until he came across the concept inadvertently. When visiting China, Smith found a brand new approach in supplementation is much better. You can picture him talking to herbalists, picking plants next to the Great Wall, and, well, you're going to get the idea. Change to, if you have the time, rent a car and enjoy a ride to the hilltop town of Gordes. Passive voice killer number 2. Change to, if you have time, rent a car and enjoy a trip to the hilltop town of Gordes. Change to, if you have time, rent a car and enjoy a visit to the hilltop town of Gordes. Naturally, let ideas fly. First, let them on paper. Then, strike with a keen eye on your copy. Slash the passive voice from and after your second draft. You can't get rid of all the passive voice. You don't have an option at times. But when possible, removing passive voice strengthens writing and makes it more vibrant and compelling. Below words are helpful. You. You make the reader concentrate on your message using the word you are using. Using more you instances than phrases such as we, our, and us. You are the core of customer-centered copywriting, which is the form of copywriting that transforms readers into customers. Bonus. Imagine you're inviting your reader to take